Welcome back to Uncensored. Demands for a full ceasefire are now growing across the world. One of my next guests, Jake Ugar, has been among the loudest voices calling for one. His name was written on an Israeli bomb to be dropped on Gaza, along with that of Andrew Tate and Mohammed Hijab, all previous Palestinian guests on this show. Well, I'm joined now by Democratic presidential candidate Jake Ugar, Mosab Hassan Youssef, the son of the Hamas co-founder Sheikh Hassan Youssef. Mosab has opposed the terror group since defecting in the 90s. And the former Chelsea and Israel manager Avram Grant joins me live in the studio. Avram, great to see you, and I'll come to you in just a moment. Jake, I want to start with you because pretty extraordinary to see your name scrawled on a IDF bomb. Just first of all, what was your response to that?
Yeah, it's, of course, disheartening to see it. It's sick. They're going to drop those bombs on Palestinian civilians. They're probably going to murder babies and grandmothers with those bombs. That's why if I'm president, I won't send Israel a single dollar. Not only the $14 billion they're considering now, but I would end all funding to Israel as they have massacred civilian after civilian, 19,000 dead, 9,000 children butchered. I do not want a single American tax dollar going to help Israel commit war crimes. And if they think they're going to intimidate me by putting my name on their bombs, they've got another thought coming to them.
We're at a state in this war where Hamas is believed to have around 35,000 terrorists. At best estimate, 7,000 to 8,000, if you accept the IDF figures, have been killed, and that's not been confirmed at all. But if that is the case, that's only 20% of the total. That means that 80% of Hamas terrorists have not been killed yet. Again, I'm staying with you, Jake, for this. I mean, if you're Israel and your mission statement is to eradicate Hamas, the calls for a ceasefire are going to fall on deaf ears, aren't they? Because they're determined, as we can hear from all the rhetoric, to finish the job as they see it.
Yeah, so let's be clear. I mean, I saw the Mark Regev on before me, the propagandist for Israel that you had on. And first of all, he thought it was funny that my name was on the bombs. I don't think that the children that they're murdering think it's funny. And the idea that they are not indiscriminately killing civilians is absurd. So they dropped 2,000-pound bombs in residential areas. America never dropped a bomb larger than 500 pounds in a residential area in Iraq, and we did great damage in Iraq, 4 times larger. The area is the size of Las Vegas, and they've dropped 29,000 bombs, nearly half of which are unguided missiles. Then they shoot 3 hostages dead without even checking when they had a white flag and no shirt on at all. And if those 3 hostages were Palestinians instead of Israelis, no one would have even noticed, because now at this point, one more devastating fact. Hamas and what they did on October 7th was terrible, and they killed 846 civilians. The rest were soldiers. Now Israel has, even if you take the IDF numbers of saying that of the 19,000 they killed, is 5,000 they claim is Hamas. It's an absurd number, a total and utter lie, not backed up by any evidence. But even if you accepted it, that means Israel has now killed 16 times as many civilians as the terrorist group Hamas.
Here's the question.
So what does that make Israel?
Should Israel leave Hamas 80% intact? Is that good for anybody?
So, no. So now we get to the absurdity of what Israel says. We are going to stay there until all of Hamas is gone. How? How do we know if they're all gone? How do we know if they've surrendered? How do we know if the Palestinians have turned on Hamas? These are all impossible standards meant to eradicate Gaza entirely, and in fact, they've almost done it already. 90% of the people in Gaza are homeless. We're picking out the body parts of family members every single day in Gaza. It is one of the, and now even the New York Times and every human rights group acknowledges this is one of the worst massacres, the biggest war crimes committed in our lifetimes. America in 20 years in Afghanistan did not kill as many civilians as Israel has killed in 2 months.
But should they leave Hamas
So now
intact?
let me give you an answer. Let me give you a productive way to do this, how to drive Hamas out. You make a peace deal with the Palestinian Authority. That buys them the credibility to be able to say to the Palestinian people, we have delivered a state for you, the thing that we have been looking for our entire lives. And now, because we have delivered that for you, we are going to run Gaza. That can drive Hamas out in a way that is organic and driven by the Palestinians themselves. If you just try to murder as many civilians as possible in Gaza, That is not an answer for actually getting Hamas.
Okay.
And by the way, the bombs have shown that they do not affect the tunnels.
Okay.
So all they're doing is killing civilians.
Let me bring in Mosab Hassan Yusuf. You're the son of one of the Hamas co-founders, of course, and renounced that back in the 90s. You believe that Israel should finish the job. They should eradicate Hamas.
Well, absolutely, because all the calling for a ceasefire is calling for surrender. They want Israel to surrender to the terrorist savages and sit down at the table and negotiate with them. And this is absolutely rejected.
Is there any deal to ever be done with Hamas? You know Hamas very well, obviously, through your father. Is there any deal to be done with a group like this now?
There is no deal with the devil. There is no deal with Hamas as long as they pose a threat against children, against civilians, and destabilize security in the entire region. If they get away with their crime, and their crime is not just any crime, it's a genocide. If they get away with their crime, what will they do tomorrow? They have to be punished and they have to be held accountable. All the calling for ceasefire, those are the people who want to give a lifeline to Hamas. And this is not acceptable.
Mosab, you tweeted on Friday something that many people found incendiary. You said, never trust anyone who identifies as a Muslim. They may appear as a harmless sheep when they are alone, but when they're in a pack, they will begin to show their tusks. I have zero respect for any individual who identifies as a Muslim, and I may consider the use of force when it comes to Islamists. What did you mean by that? Many people have said, well, why would you say that about, over 1 billion people?
Well, I don't care how many they are. Any person who put the religious identity above the highest interest of humanity, I have no respect for these people. The majority of the Muslim people identified with Hamas, supported Hamas. Show me how many Muslims out there who condemned Hamas genocide. Why? Is it because Jewish blood? This is what I meant, that the Muslims, as long as they give Hamas cover, I have no respect for them. As long as I identify as Muslims, I have no respect for them.
But I've interviewed a number of Muslims on this show who do not support Hamas and have renounced them. Jink himself came on the show before and immediately denounced what Hamas did on October 7th.
I am dealing with a majority of Muslim countries, governments, an entire nation. Don't tell me about an individual here or there. We're talking about a majority of Muslim people
I'm only saying that because
who fail to take their moral responsibility.
Understand,
they fail to take their moral responsibility because it's Jewish people.
I understand, but you did say literally every Muslim. You said don't trust anyone who identifies as a Muslim. That's all of them. And what I'm saying to you is I've interviewed many Muslims on the show who are not extremists, who do not support what Hamas did, who believe what they did was a terror attack.
But they still have the need for a religious identity, which is a false identity. Individuality is something else. Freedom is something else. A person who knows who they are above all national and religious identities. There is no need to pose as a Muslim in a critical time in the human history. This is the time to take moral responsibility. What's the point of identifying as a Muslim while people threatening to erase an entire Jewish community? This is not acceptable. This is why I want the Muslim to stand and be clear.
Okay.
Up to this point, I haven't seen the Muslims taking a moral stand, a firm stand against Hamas. You know why? Because they are Muslims. Because they are Muslims against the Jewish people. And this is where I want to push the Muslims to the point where they need to stand firmly and say, it doesn't matter if they are Jewish or Christians. A genocide is a genocide and is rejected. Hamas is rejected. I want to see this clearly. Then after that, I will have respect for the majority of the Muslim people. As long as they fail their moral responsibility, I have no respect for them.
Okay. You made your point very firmly there. We bring in Avram. Avram, look, a lot of emotions run very high with this, understandably. A lot of people have been killed on both sides. It's a horrific situation. You were in Israel on October the 7th. You've been back since. You've spoken to IDF soldiers. You've been to the kibbutzes that were attacked. I think one of your daughter's friends was killed. I mean, it's personal for you. You know, your father survived the Holocaust. What do you feel about all this?
I feel sad. To be honest, I feel sad. But I want to tell you something. I came to Israel a few days before. The atmosphere was very pastoralic. My son is a musician. He is writing songs. By the way, he writes a song about the war that he called it Stopper. I say, why Stopper? I say, because for me, everything stopped on the 7th of October. And then I woke up on Saturday morning. My friend called me and said, you don't believe it. 23 people was murdered by the Hamas. I said, oh. And he started to watch the television. The day after, my wife decided that we will take our daughter Romy because she was working in the television. And you know, I don't know if you know, I think also you got all the videos, horrible videos. She didn't want to see it. On the way back, my daughter started to cry. I say, why? I say, we found a lie. Our friend, he was murdered in this party. The way, party for peace, not only by the Jewish people. So this is how I exposed to this situation. But I will tell you, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. All of this area is tragedy. I'm not a politician. I'm a football guy. But I live in this area. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I have a lot. And I want one thing to say. Two things. First, what would you do? What England would do if this massacre happened in England? What they would do? What they would do? There would be silence. And not just this. What they would do if the people that did it said publicly, we will do it again. And we will do it again. And they show the videos. By the way, all the videos was published by them, was videos by them. Even the Nazis was hiding what they do. What do you do? Of course, you need to prevent the second time.
But are you comfortable, Avram, with the scale of the response by Israel? Do you feel comfortable now? A lot of people are feeling increasingly uncomfortable. And when you see 3 hostages being killed, you see women being killed outside churches, the Pope calling it terrorism, the President of the United States saying it's indiscriminate bombing and so on. Do you feel comfortable about this? Do you think that Israel should just carry on, or do you think they should have a pause?
I'm not a general of all things. I think one thing everybody knows, this Hamas don't need to be in this area. If the Hamas is not here, if the hostage was released, by the way, which hostages? 10 months years old, 4 years old, 85 years old. There are people that was in the party. It's not the soldiers. They didn't fight. It's I don't remember in the history hostages like this. They need to release them immediately. They need to put the weapon down. One thing for sure I can say to you, Piers, if they would put the weapon down, if they release the hostages, and they put all their efforts instead to build tunnels, instead to make missiles, to the quality of the people, Gaza can be paradise. I can assure you to this, for sure.
But do you think Israel should continue fighting until they get rid of Hamas completely? Or that could mean many, many months, if not years, at the rate they're going.
No, I don't know. People say 6 weeks. I don't know. I think this is need to be the target of the free world and Israel to get rid of the Hamas. Because the Hamas, I'm one of the people that believe them, not believe that the number. They said, we want to kill again.
Yeah, they did. There's no question of that.
So you need to get rid of the Hamas. You need to get rid of how to do it. I'm a football coach. I'm not
everyone talks about the day after the war. What do you think the future looks like here? How do we get to peace?
I will tell you exactly. Not exactly. I will tell you my opinion. First, I have a lot of Muslim friends. By the way, I have friends in Gaza. My wife even did a program about family from Gaza. I have friends, all the Muslims around the world. They condemn what's happened. They don't like it. I don't agree with this guy. I agree with him that the Hamas is the devil, but not all the Muslims are like this. They didn't like what they do. I think the people in Gaza deserve other government. They deserve other leaders. They need a leader.
And who should that be?
They need to lead. I don't know. They need a leader that from them. Leaders that take care of the quality of life. They need the leaders that will lead them to this area. They need the leaders that their target is not to hate. Their target is to build something. Their target is to do something, not to hate others. This deserve the leader. One thing is for sure, you know the song of Martin Luther, the speech, I have a dream. I also have a dream. I have a dream that it will happen. I will tell you something. The leader that I admire more than anybody, I think, is the number one leader on the 20th century is Anwar Sadat. Anwar Sadat was a guy that was the worst enemy of Israel. In 25 years, 4 wars. One of them, he started it, yes. They killed each other. Many people died. Many people got injured. And this guy decided to come to Israel, to the parliament, and say, I know I want a peace. And I will tell you something. In these days, to say, I'm going to Israel, it's more than Bin Laden will come to America, you know. And he came, and what's happened since then? 50 years, nobody died. Yeah. It's a cold peace. I want the peace will be better. Nobody died. I expect that these leaders now in the region, and I agree with the son of the father, will take responsibility. And they say, let's make Gaza paradise. You know that I tried to do a project of football. Yeah. Pitches on the borders. And I will do it, by the way. Pitches between
Israelis playing Palestinians.
Yeah. And the people will come to Peter. I try to do this project. I still believe in this. But I expect this leader, maybe it's Mohammed bin Salman, maybe others. I expect the leaders to sit together and say, instead to give them money for tunnels, why they need the tunnels? Why they need make money to the quality of the people? Like Anwar Sadat came to Israel, very brave man. I expect them to do this. And I will tell you one thing.
I've got to go actually, Avram. I think you're right.
I will put all the leaders together that want peace, even from Iran, even from everybody that want peace and want to make a Gaza paradise.
And make it happen.
They can make it. And you know how it started? When Anwar Sadat called to Walter Cronkite and said to him, I'm ready to come to Israel. Yeah. So maybe they will call you Pierce and they say, let's make peace. Let's make Gaza paradise.
I would do anything
and let's stop the intention of killing other people, because I agree with Mark Regev. The Israel never have intention to kill other people.
Avram, got to leave it there. Fascinating to talk to you. Great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. And to my 2 other guests, I really appreciate it. Jake, I can see you wanted to jump in. We will come back to this. You're a powerful voice, and I will come back to you about this. I've just run out of time tonight, but thank you all very much.
9,000 dead children in Gaza.
Yeah,
9,000 dead children. It's acts of terrorism.
I will get you back on again soon, and we'll talk about it again. I promise you that. Thank you all very much for joining me.